I really don't think he's going to be there for 10, 11, or 12.
He is not.
If either of our teams want to get him, they need to go up and get him. One of our teams might have been able to get him if they just stayed where they were.
Yeah, like maybe get the 6.
I don't know. It's possible.
Chris Hansen here, and I'm going to need you all to take a seat right over there and check out Birds versus Boys.
I think you're completely right here, and I hate it.
Yep. Hey, idiots. Stop doing dumb things. I got 2 phones. Upset alert. Upset alert. I might go insane.
I think you're already there. There's no hope. Hope is gone.
If this was an AFC North podcast, we'd be done in 15 minutes.
Bob Hope.
I'm going to drink bleach. That is
the team you promised me you were going to be this year.
This is the Consciously Hopeful podcast.
I'll be watching.
Welcome to episode 54 of Birds vs. Boys. Today is a very, very special edition. It is our draft prospect preview show. We are going to dive deep into 8 of our favorite prospects, some of the most elite talent coming into the NFL who will be drafted in 2 weeks at the NFL draft, which we also have a branded / Birds vs. Boys live stream event, but I will let Aidan talk to you about that during the technical notes. But Aidan, how are you?
I'm doing well. My spirits are up. Anybody who knows me knows I love to talk about this and anticipate how these players will translate from the college game, which I love, to the NFL game, which I love. So watching this film and getting ready for the next step is fantastic. I'm excited for this unique show we have in store.
Yeah. When you came up with this idea, I was like, yes, we have to. This is like the mini version of the draft show, which they do. I mean, you and I were both listening this week, and they were easily diving into 7th and 6th round talent right off the top of their heads. We will not be doing that tonight. We're going all first round.
Listen, we probably could if we wanted to, but yes. It was fantastic. They, like you said, they could recite stats about third day guys. But for us tonight, to get into the technical notes, what makes this is a unique show, we've touched on prospects before, guys that we like, but we are honing our skills. We are talking directly about some specific prospects as an all prospect draft preview show. No guest tonight. What we're going to do, like Kevin said, we've got 8 prospects, break them down one by one. A lot of it is YouTube film. I'm a big YouTube guy. So we'll go through, and each of these players impacts one, if not both, of our teams. So it'll be a few different position groups. A lot of the position groups we share a common need, which worked out well. But that's what we're going to do tonight. Straight NFL draft prospect breakdown. Heading 2 weeks into the NFL draft. We'll be back with guests, but for now, it's just Kevin and I breaking down the top prospects in the NFL draft you could see drafted at 10 or 12.
I'm so excited. Well, you could see drafted at 10 and then sitting there in the Eagles drop back from 12 to 23 for no reason. So 10 or 23.
I have a prediction, and I'm saving it to our very last show before the draft because I know exactly what they're going to do. This is a cliffhanger. Stay tuned. It's the most Eagles move of all time.
I don't even know what he's talking about. So
I haven't told anyone, but I know exactly what the Eagles are going to do. You know, when you start to realize what your friends are going to do, like when you go out with a friend and they're going to pull an Irish goodbye, or stuff like that. Yep. I know the Eagles as my friend. I know what they're going to do in a given situation. Now I've just hung out with them enough. I know what's happening.
The Eagles are that friend that you love to hang out with, but then at the same time, once you're hanging out with them, you're like, God, it's annoying.
Yeah, you're like, oh, why don't we hang out more? And you're like, oh, now I remember why.
This is why we don't hang out.
And then draft Jalen Hurts at 53, and you're like, oh, I remember why I don't like hanging out with you.
But then 2 weeks later, when they call, you're like, yeah, let's go out for drinks.
Yeah, you're like, what could hurt? Like, oh, okay. We'll take Davion Taylor, who wasn't allowed to play high school football in the 3rd round. Guy has no clue what he's doing, but yeah, sure, why not?
Why not? This is fun.
This is fun. We should do this more often.
I'm 30 years old, and we're gonna go do Jersey Turnpike shots. Sure, why not? Great.
That's the friendship with the Philadelphia Eagles.
Exactly.
All right, enough of that, because it's not really the Eagles show. It's not really the Cowboys show. It's for these specific players that could be on our team. Now, we'll give you the names first, just so you're aware.
Real quick, if I could jump in real quick. Just want to give a little producer Vince note. Aidan mentioned it a little bit. If you're listening, it's fine, but it's going to be a really visual show. So if you're listening now, I'd recommend going back later and watching on YouTube, just because there's going to be a lot of like visual stuff, stuff kind of like this.
Okay.
Alrighty.
So I was watching the Eagles and the Braves the other day, and I noticed something. You guys look a lot like these
Freddie
two.
Freeman.
You guys look a lot like these two.
Royce
You
Hoskins.
kind of do look like Reese Hoskins. I think you're right.
I've heard JJ Redick like that one better.
You got a haircut like JJ Redick.
Yeah.
Huh.
Right.
I'll take
That's all I had.
Okay.
Thank you, producer
See you guys
Vince.
later. I'll see you guys at the back.
Vince's Nugget.
We'll see
Everybody.
Vince's nugget later tonight. Also, the reason that he popped in 2 minutes before we started, we did a whole producing meeting before, and 2 minutes before, Vince goes, make sure to remind people that this is going to be visual. We're going to have film playing as you're talking about them. So remind people they can watch on YouTube.
I thought that was coming up as soon as you said you're a YouTube guy. I was like, oh, okay, perfect transition to make sure you follow us on YouTube and make sure to watch this episode on YouTube. Nope.
He told me to say YouTube. I literally mentioned YouTube and still forgot to mention that we couldn't also be seen on YouTube. So
and should be seen on YouTube.
And should be seen on YouTube. So you can listen for sure, because we're going to be talking about each of these prospects. But if you are a visual learner like we are, and my eyes are bleeding because all I've done is watch YouTube highlight tape for the past 24 hours, I would recommend checking out the show on YouTube for the first time.
There you go. Shout out YouTube.
All right, so let's get into it. Let's break it down like this. We have a few different position groups that could help our teams, and they're kind of grouped together as we go through these prospects. So we'll start with the receiver group. I'm sure one name, as you know, is a hybrid. I wonder what hint that is. We have offensive line as well, cornerback, and then linebacker. So we'll start with receiver first. I know, Kevin, this probably isn't the area for you. Obviously, that little hint I just dropped, I wonder who that could be. Every team would love to have them. But these are guys who could end up in the division. You know, looking at the Giants at 11 and 12, the two Alabama receivers, let's start with them first, because even if the Cowboys don't get them at 10, which they probably won't, 11 and 12, they're sitting there probably.
And not only could they end up in the division hurting my Dallas Cowboys week in and week out, they're also just fun players to watch. So I was very intrigued. You and I both watch a lot of college football casually during the season, but being able to dive into some of their film and actually watch these guys play, more keen in on them, the little things that they do, it's a pleasure to watch these two receivers play football.
And that's probably my main takeaway from the receiver tape is Alabama was just so loaded at receiver that it's hard to hyper focus on one guy. This is a receiver room last year. It was Jerry Jeudy, Henry Ruggs. Now they got two more first round guys that we're about to talk about, Waddle and Smith. So it makes it very difficult when you're watching a game casually to just be like, oh, I'm going to focus on Jaylen Waddle. And, even before Waddle got hurt, like DeVonta Smith was not that big of a household bona fide star name because he was in the shadow of Jerry Jeudy last year and then Jaylen Waddle as well. So they just had so much talent as a casual fan. It's hard to keep track of until you watch on YouTube.
All right, let's get into Jaylen Waddle then. Obviously, this is Vince's guy because he wants as many Jaylens on the Eagles as possible. So Jaylen Waddle, obviously receiver from Alabama. He's 22 years old, 5'10", 183, and he ran a 4.37 at his pro day this year in his 40. Producer Vince just brought up some of his highlights. Let's go through some of your positives and any negatives that you have, Aidan, and I will toss mine in there as well as we go. So
Okay,
Jaylen Waddle.
Jaylen Waddle. First thing, Vince, you'll love this. There was a highlight I was watching where the Jalen Hurts threw him a touchdown. They're like, Jaylen, and I was like, oh, God.
There we go.
But I was listening to Greg Cosell break down his tape. He said he's a motion receiver, so you like to get him moving at the line of scrimmage. We're talking bubble screens, wide receiver screens, jet sweeps, anything to get his engine revved up. Because once it's really hard to catch him. That was my main takeaway. And you look at the Eagles, what they're trying to do. That's Nick Sirianni's MO. Is having these quick hitters get the ball out of the quarterback's hands and let the receiver make a play. It doesn't have to be, you saw these long, elongated routes from Eagles receivers last year, and you're like, what are you doing? This offensive line is terrible. They can't hold up that long. And it's going to be a lot different this year. Waddle fits that perfectly. That second burst is fantastic.
Yes. That's actually my first thing that I have was he has true second gear speed that not a lot of wide receivers have. A lot of wide receivers are burners, but he can put it into second gear and good night. And on top of that, he is so fast off the line.
Mm-hmm.
It's incredible. So to be able to put those two skills together, we're being extremely fast off the line. He gets a step or even sometimes two on his defender within the first 10 yards. Putting those two things together with then a second gear top end speed, I mean, it's unbelievable. And he gets to that top end speed fast.
In a hurry. Yeah, I think he's different than Henry Ruggs because Ruggs is more straight line speed. This guy's a fluent, like, I'm going to turn 5 yards into 15 yards in the blink of an eye if you turn your head the wrong way. And Vince, if you could pull the tape back up, you see deep shots on here. Like he's obviously very fast, so they take a lot of deep shots for him. But also, you see a lot of these where he's just breaking away from who's ever covering him because he's able to make one move, whether it's a slant. Like you're looking at this play right here, and they're going deep. Actually, yeah, this is an intermediate route, and he just beats two people, and then all of a sudden you see the space that gets created, and he's 40 yards down the field. And a lot of it is that where it's not necessarily a bomb. They're just looking at him over the middle and stuff like that. And all of a sudden the receivers or the defender's gone. That second burst of speed is what sticks out to me.
And I also have that in my notes here on him was yak, yak, yak. He just finds ways to get yards after the catch. And
they just ran a play on screen real quick. He caught it. There were 4 Auburn defenders in the screen when he caught it. And 30 yards later, there was no one around, and he scored a touchdown. That, if I could sum up him in one play, it would be that play.
Yep. And on top of these type of plays, the deep shots that you said, he catches the ball in stride. He never loses speed when he's catching the ball. It is right into the hands and bang, I'm going. And some other things that I saw is that he can still, on top of getting the speed, catching the intermediate, the yak, the long throws, he can get vertical too on defenders and catch the ball at the high point and get the tough catch on top of. And he's a good route runner. He's polished, and he's a great returner. I mean, that's how he got hurt, obviously, last year. But I mean, on top of being a dynamic wide receiver, he's a dynamic returner as well.
That was my next point. Is there was fantastic highlights of him being a punt returner or a kick returner. He's pretty much like what Reagor was supposed to be and still could be. But just like in basketball, when you load up on shooting, just load up on speed. So if you even, it doesn't mean you give up on Reagor by getting this guy, but I agree the kick return and punt return stuff too. Let me just make my statement. I'm in.
Julio Waddle.
We are 2 weeks away. They're going to draft this kid. I'm going to be like, if he didn't break his leg, he would have been the first receiver off the board. They're really getting a steal. He was actually the best receiver at Alabama.
Jamar Chase, who? I didn't really love him that much.
I didn't love, Jamar Chase was good, but Waddle just had too many other mouths to feed at Alabama. That's why he couldn't compete with stats. If he didn't get hurt, he would have won the Heisman. We are 2 weeks from that.
I love that. Before we move on, did you have any negatives about Waddle? I had 2.
Yeah. The only one that I had is the last time I saw him, it looked like a deer who got hit by a car and was limping off the highway. That is my only concern. I haven't seen this kid play football since he was limping all over the national championship field, and I didn't think he had an ankle ligament attached to his body.
Besides the injury, I only saw 2 that are kind of one and the same. I saw that, like, if it's a one-on-one physical battle, he can lose those sometimes, and he can be tackled easily in the open field. But that's if someone catches him, or if someone's there. That's something he can work on. He can get stronger in the NFL. So that's not something that I'm overly concerned about, especially with his speed.
Me neither. I think, like you said, I think he's going to beat a lot of people just because of his route running and because of his burst. And that actually leads in perfectly to the next Alabama receiver, if you're good to go there.
Absolutely.
I think there's some similarities in terms of what the cons are. So let's go to DeVonta Smith next.
All right. So DeVonta Smith, he is also 22 years old, out of the University of Alabama. He is 6'1", 174, a very light, skinny guy that we know. He ran a 4.27 at his pro day. Heisman Trophy winner. He's an absolute beast. And he is from Louisiana. So I know we got tape on Devonta. Everybody says it a little bit differently.
Depending on what area of the country you're from.
Exactly.
How you pronounce the A at the end.
It's funny too. My first note, unstoppable.
That's fair.
He just looked unstoppable in college.
That makes my first note seem lame. Mine was Linear Strider. Yours was unstoppable. Mine was Linear Strider.
Oh God, completely just unstoppable. And then on top of unstoppable, my next point was that he's extremely polished. He reminds me almost of like Marvin Harrison, the way he runs his routes. It's just he runs routes to perfection.
Yeah, that's what a lot of people have been saying with the comp to Marvin Harrison, just because, he's not Megatron. He's not DK Metcalf. He's not physically overbearing. He's actually really small at 170 pounds. Even our co-host Eddie is almost 170 pounds. So he's not very, very big. But when you're that polished at route running at this young an age and you do everything 10 out of 10, does it really matter? Mm-hmm. And I think it matters a little bit, but same thing with Waddle. I think the pros outweigh the cons when it comes to this. And yeah, I think he'll struggle a little bit with that size and with the wiry frame. Would I draft him because he doesn't fill out his frame? No, I'm still drafting him. And the play you just showed is one of the points that I had. He goes up and high points the ball as well as any college age receiver I've ever seen. So it doesn't matter what your weight is. If you're able to go up and win one-on-one matchups like that. And as we go through this tape here, that's a tremendous toe touch, by the way. There's a few of them like that. Like he has a wide array, an assortment of one-on-one grabs going up, high pointing the ball. So you can talk about weight all you want. There's not a lot of guys doing that.
And just to agree with what you're saying there and going along with the tape, a few of my points that I had written down here was he can make tough catches in contact, adjust to the ball in the air unbelievably, great ability to make the catch and stay in bounds, which like he did right there. He just finds a way to go up, high point the ball. His concentration is second to none, and he finds a way while he's high pointing that ball to then come down in bounds.
Here's the best way to put it. If you're a team looking to draft him, you can teach weight and strength. You can put a kid in the weight room. You can't really teach the way this kid is running routes. I mean, you can get him on a practice field and say, do it and run this route. But to perfect it like this kid has, it's going to be impossible for people like that. So that's, if you're looking to draft him, that would be one of the takeaways, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, I would be fearful if he went to the Eagles or the Giants if he ended up in this division, because he's not going to be a Cowboy. Cowboys are not going to draft him at 10. Just doesn't make sense. But yeah, I
think at 11, I really, really, really think he's going 11 to the Giants. I think he'd be the perfect complement to Kenny Galladay. Galladay, whatever. Sorry. The A's with DeVonta and Galladay, and I'm all fucked up. Screwed up. Sorry. I can really see him going to the Giants.
I could too. And he'll be Daniel Jones's best friend. He'll make Daniel Jones look, because again, he's a guy where you don't have to sling it down the field. You can get it to him in under 10 yards and let him do his thing.
Yeah. And they had success with that with guys like Darius Slayton, turn Darius Slayton into DeVonta Smith. And I think you're really cooking with gas. Think of an offense with Kenny Galladay, DeVonta Smith, and Saquon Barkley. All of a sudden,
thank you.
Yeah, I was about to say, all of a sudden, you're pretty scary on offense. And, sometimes Evan Ingram when he decides to focus. Him as well sometimes. So, that I really see at 11.
I could see that too. And a couple other things that I said, I put in my notes here too that I didn't mention yet. He has great release off the line as well. The way he uses his feet and his hands at the line. We said he's an excellent route runner. He's got A+ hand-eye coordination. I mean, I just the way he finds the ball with his eyes and can go get it, and he makes the catch at full speed. It's kind of the same thing as Waddle. Like I said, he makes the catch in stride. He doesn't have to slow down. Even when he's coming back to the ball, I feel like to help his quarterback, he just has this innate speed. It's more like football speed because he's not a burner. He's not a Henry Ruggs, but he doesn't need to be. He uses his speed in a different way.
No, I think his stride catches people off guard. Like he just outstrides you, and his legs aren't moving like Tyreek Hill's. But all of a sudden, then he's past you, and you're like, "Wait a second, how'd this guy?"
What just happened?
He does like everything well to combat the weight issue that people have about him.
Yep.
The one I have two other things written down. One is serious. One is just I wrote down Alabama's offense. ... LOL. Because watching the highlights of these kids, it's like, are you kidding me?
Yeah,
this is ridiculous.
It's insane. It's insane.
And like I said, leading into my other point before we move on is Waddle might have won the Heisman if he didn't get hurt, and then DeVonta Smith does. Like the offense was just so loaded. It's like, all right, whoever we put in here is just going to just load up on stats.
And Mac Jones could have won the Heisman.
Mac Jones is going to go 3 overall because of how good this offense was. It's astronomical. It's insane.
It's wild.
The one last point for you, because I want to see if you agree with me or not. I wrote down, I can see Waddle going ahead of DeVonta Smith, despite how the year finished, because I think Waddle has the higher ceiling. That burst is what people are looking for. Speed kills. Do you agree or disagree?
We saw it with Henry Ruggs being the first receiver off the board last year. People love the speed. And Waddle is a better receiver than Ruggs is. So I'm not comparing the two of them. But yes.
I was just going to say Ruggs is the 4th best receiver, which was,
yes.
I mean, that will forever be funny to me.
My only negatives with DeVonta is, not a very good blocker because of his size, but does he really have to be? Also depends on the offense that he's going to go into. His strength, and he can kind of be knocked off balance sometimes if he's going up against a big physical corner. But again, something that can be taught on the next level, something that can be helped out in the weight room in the next level. Not at all negatives that fear me drafting him, especially in the top 12.
No, it's going to hurt less. Now that I've already talked myself into him going to 11 of the Giants, I'm already mentally prepared for him scoring touchdowns against us for the next 8 years.
I cannot wait.
All right. Anything else on the Alabama receivers?
No, because I'm so excited to get to our next guy.
All right. I wonder who it could be. So we grouped him into the wide receiver group. We could have grouped him into wide receivers, tight ends, demigods, whatever you'd like to do. Offensive lineman,
linebacker,
point forwards on a basketball team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he could be playing for the Nets right now since nobody else is playing for them tonight, and probably drop 25.
Yeah, a member of the Avengers.
Mm-hmm.
It could be any of these things. Kyle Pitts, tight end, hybrid wide receiver, Florida. Let's do it.
All right, so Kyle Pitts, he's only 20 years old. Blows my absolute mind. He was born in the year 2000. I have no words to that. He's 6'6", 240 pounds, ran a 4.44 Florida Gators and high school Archbishop Wood in Abington, Pennsylvania, not too far from either of us. I mean, first thing I have in my notes, he's a wide receiver in a tight end's body.
That is the one thing that I had in my notes. So I had a lot of people compare him to Travis Kelce. I compare him to Darren Waller. Waller's the best receiving threat on the Raiders, and we may have touched on this before. Waller is the best receiving threat on the Raiders, so they split him out wide a lot, and they don't care if he has a matchup with a corner or a safety or a linebacker. They're like, let's just get him out wide because he's our best option to catch a pass. That's what you're going to see with Kyle Pitts. That was my first note.
And that's exactly moving into what my second note is. He's a pure mismatch, no matter where he is. Put him inside, put him outside. I don't care who's on him. He has the mismatch.
Speaking of mismatches, we're watching his tape right now. He just went over a Georgia quarterback. His tape as I was watching, and then it took 3 people to bring him down. His tape reminds me of the high school tapes of Zion when he was at Spartansburg, where he was just like dunking on these small little kids, except Kyle Pitts is playing in the SEC. Like this was just like he's playing at the highest level of college football. And you see on most of these plays, if you're watching on YouTube, and here's one of my favorite plays coming up because I think this is a play. Yeah, double covered in the end zone, and he just goes up and catches it over 2 Ole Miss cornerbacks. It's like he's
and
double covered in every shot that we're watching.
Like, not only did he go over and catch it, he ripped it out of the cornerback's hands and said, "Nope, this is mine."
It's the perfect combination of size and strength. We say that all the time. It's like a go-to phrase right now, but this is, I really mean it. This time, this is not a boy who cried wolf situation. Sound the alarms. Kyle Pitts, the perfect combination of size and speed.
And athleticism. He's just unbelievably, incredibly athletic on top of that. And he's fluid. He's agile. And he's such a good catcher of the football. Like he doesn't just have athletic ability. Like, those kids on your, youth team that's just like big and fast, but have no hands. And they're like, just get him out there because he's athletic. No.
Yeah.
He's get him out there because he's athletic, but he's skilled at the same time. And it's so scary. The combination of all of it, give him to me now.
I know. I think he'll change the game. Like, I really think he'll change how defenses approach things. And we talk about linebackers and how they're not important. You're going to need linebackers who can fly to keep up with this. And just like safeties are going to have to match up. And you're going to like, oh, now we need safeties who are able to play at the line of scrimmage. But also you have to cover like a quarterback. Like he can literally revolutionize the game. It's fantastic. I love watching this tape. He breaks away. Ole Miss had a day. I'll tell you what, Ole Miss had a freaking day trying to cover this kid. This is the same game. This is just one game.
Everything we've just seen in these last couple of highlights are exactly what I have written down. Great at tracking the ball in the air, comes away with difficult catches. Vertical ability lets him get up and over defenders, comes back to the ball and is QB friendly.
Yeah.
All of that just happened in 3 plays.
He's got Kyle Trask is a good quarterback. I think he's underrated, but he's got to give some of his signing bonus to Kyle Pitts because this is just ridiculous. There's one, and I don't know where we're at in the highlight tape. I have his highlight tape memorized. I told you guys. It might be this play coming up right here. Oh, no, I saw Jaycee Horn on somebody else. But he does score a touchdown on Jaycee Horn. So this is what I'm saying. Like, he's making it look easy, and Jaycee Horn is a projected top 15 pick.
Who could very realistically be on either of our teams next year?
Hint. We might get into Jaycee Horn here too. Yeah, that's Surtain. Like, it's like these are the guys who we're talking about to be in the NFL, and he's just like treat these kids like rag dolls. It's hilarious.
So we haven't done this yet we kind of did, but outside of our division, I really don't think he's going to be there for 10, 11, or 12.
He is not.
If either of our teams want to get him, they need to go up and get him. One of our teams might have been able to get him if they just stayed where they were.
Yeah, like maybe get the 6.
I don't know. It's possible.
I don't know.
Because, if 4 quarterbacks go and then Penei Sewell goes at 5 and then, Pitts is just sitting there at 6. I don't know. Or Chase.
I'm going to end up in an insane asylum. I don't think people will realize how badly this draft show will go on Thursday, April 29th on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. If we get the 6 and Kyle Pitts and Ja'Marr Chase are still there, you will see me have a mental breakdown live on air.
If one of them is absolutely going to be there, I think unless Atlanta takes Pitts at 4 and then the Bengals take Chase at 5. That's the only way. But I don't think.
Then you would have had Sewell. Okay, we can't do it.
I think he's going to end up in Miami.
Ready
and
for
I think
my
he's going to look great in Miami.
He would look great in Miami. He very much would. Him or Ja'Marr Chase. I can see them in that teal, that Miami teal. And Tua, I'm sure he'd love to. That was my question. I wonder if Tua says, hey, can you get Jaylen Waddle for me again? But here, you ready for my bold prediction? Here's my nugget. I've been excited to share this all day. I think I found something. I think I found something good. I can see him going forward to Atlanta. But if they trade out, somebody comes up for a quarterback or whatever it may be, or the team I'm about to say could trade up to get him. Kyle Pitts, you mentioned, went to Archbishop Wood.
He did.
He went to camp at Temple prior to his junior year of high school. And that's the first time ever he worked out at tight end, which is remarkable on its own. His first scholarship offer was immediately after the camp. Like, the Temple coaches saw him play tight end for a
I see where
camp.
we're going here.
And we're like, yeah, I'm in. So Temple was his first scholarship offer ever. Their coach, who brought him into his office, personally sat him down and offered him after this camp, was Matt Rule. And then when Matt Rule left Temple, he came back as the Baylor head coach and offered him again. Matt Rule has been after this kid since he was 15 years old. He is not making it past 8 with Carolina. Kyle Pitts will be a member of the Carolina Panthers if he's there at 8, and the Panthers might even move up to get him. He's offered him a scholarship once, he's offered it twice, and he's not going to let him get by without drafting him this time.
And our good friend of the program, Colin Thompson, who's also a tight end for the Carolina Panthers, was obviously offered by Matt Rule at Temple. Also was a Florida tight end first, if I believe, went to Florida first, then was offered by Matt Rule at Temple, is now a part of the Carolina Panthers, and also played his high school football at Archbishop Wood. I was about to
say, it's the circle of life. Archbishop Wood must be a tight end factory.
They're a football factory for sure in Pennsylvania terms.
Jeez, that St. Joe's prep.
Wow. Yeah, there's no way he gets past 8. You're right. It's not. I don't think he gets there, but if he does, it's one of those.
It's over.
Like, who's at 7? Lions,
Detroit. Yeah.
So let's say they take Rashawn Slater, like, and Pitts is still there. It's like, Detroit Lions select Rashawn Slater. The rules are just like, Pitts. He's going, Pitts. We'll take Pitts. You don't even, like, he's running up to the.
Yeah. You ever do a fantasy draft and you're sitting there and there's one guy ahead of you, and you're like, please don't take this guy. Please don't take this guy. Please don't take this guy. And he chooses just like, all right, I'm going to choose my defense. And you're like, oh, thank God. Yes. And you just run up with the sticker and slap it on the board in less than 10 seconds. You're like, oh, thank God. This is my pick. That'll be the Panthers if Kyle Pitts falls to 8.
Absolutely. That'll also be the Cowboys if some way he falls to 10, but he's not.
That's what I was going to say. If you want him, you have to trade up. He will not be there at 10. It just won't happen.
So there's obviously a lot of rumors around him and the Dallas Cowboys. We've talked about this on the show before. Jerry Jones is enamored with him, obsessed with him, in love with him. Aiden will tell you, well, just put any human's name ahead of that instead of Jerry Jones's name, and we all feel the same way. Mm-hmm. So the only way Jerry's going to have a chance to get him is to trade up to 4 with Atlanta, I believe. And as much as I love Kyle Pitts, as much as I think he's a generational talent, he's going to be a Hall of Famer. He's going to change the game. What they would have to give up to go get him at 4 with the holes that they have, especially on this defense, would just be too much.
You'd have to give up at least a first-round pick next year. So there goes your first-round pick for next year, plus multiple other picks. It is tough. Although we talked about it last time, I really think someone's going to trade up for a quarterback. Like, I just don't believe this Justin Fields hoopla. In the bad stuff, I mean, I have to clarify. I don't believe these character concerned things.
No, I think we're both on the same page with that, and so was Chase Sr. when he was on with us last week.
Yeah, Dwayne Haskins from the start, I was like, don't like it, don't love him, don't like him as a player, didn't like him as a teammate. I don't get those vibes at all with Justin Fields. I think someone's coming up to 4.
So the only negative I had for Thanos Megatron here was he might have to just improve his blocking a tiny bit. But again, that is
you tell him.
Yeah, that's it. So, I mean, there's nothing. That's it. Besides that, he's perfect.
My cons were he didn't play badly enough against Alabama to fall all the way to 12. That's my con. Is I wish he would have dropped a few passes against Alabama's defense, so he would have.
I mean, that makes perfect sense.
That's all I can think of.
All right. You're listening or watching on YouTube to the Birds vs. Boys draft prospect preview show. We have gone through the wide receivers / tight ends. We're now going to make our way into 2 offensive linemen. And this show, of course, is powered by Branded Sports and brought to you by delicious Stateside Vodka. So we got to move into Vince's favorite name in the entire draft.
Let's do it. Let's get into the maulers. We got 2 offensive line here, and we are taking a look at Penei Sewell.
Penei Sewell. I every time I say that now, I forget how to really say it. It's
I know.
Penei Sewell.
I literally did it the other day. I literally, instead of saying Penei Sewell, I was like Penei Sewell. Thanks, Vince. So,
thank you, Vince. So Penei Sewell here, Penei Sewell. He's a tackle out of Oregon. He was born in American Samoa. He's one of those dudes that just, you can tell he puts the tongue out and he's ready to hurt people. 6'6", 331 pounds, ran a 5.63, which at that size, that's just stupid.
He is. So I have written down here that there's been multiple quotes. Best offensive line prospect in a decade.
Mm-hmm.
I can't read and react to offensive line tape as well as I can like receivers or running backs or quarterbacks even. But you can kind of just tell watching this tape why people are so high on him. Yeah. I think this is a classic case though, because he's like dropping down draft boards because he has short arms. So they were under 34 inches, and that's not great for a tackle. This is like a classic case of examining a guy for too long. You're telling me he was one of the best tackle prospects ever, and then you measured his arms and all of a sudden you're out? Come on. No.
I hate it. I hate those little tiny, I don't know. We measured his hand, and his right hand pinky is a millimeter longer than his left hand pinky. Now, I think if he's a left tackle, that pinky strength on the right hand, having him go against guys like Clowney on the outside, I don't know if he's going to be able to hold up. Aaron Donald is just going to wreck his pinky strength. It's like, what the fuck? Watch the tape.
It's exactly how I felt watching it. And here's the thing that stuck out to me, and I know it's his best strength, is the footwork. Yeah, you can have long arms, but if you can't move your feet as an offensive line, who cares? Like having shorter arms, quote unquote, shorter arms is a trait that you can make up. Having really slow feet and you can't move, you can't come back from that. Like, no. If you're too slow, you're too slow, especially in this day and age with all these pass rushers and the different ways that they can get to the quarterback.
And so my first positive to him beyond any of his was that he was a 2-year starter at left tackle. I mean, he would have been a 3-year starter if he didn't sit out due to COVID this past year. But that soundness of starting at that level for 2 years at left tackle is unbelievable. Very, very athletic. He has great upside. And like you said, his footwork is perfect. He's so fundamentally sound and has great technique on top of he has a very wide base when he's set. And if you can see he has very good knee bend. And I know I've started to look at that in offensive lineman from our guy, Brian Broadus, who's on the draft show. He's all about how these guys bend at the knees. And if they're like upright or bent over, it's a big no-no. And yeah, his arms may be short, but have you seen his like hand punch? It's just like he's going to kill someone with it.
Yeah, he attacks the defender.
Yes.
It's not the defender coming at him. He attacks and is aggressive and attacks the defender. And so those are the 2 things that stuck out. You talked about the hand punch and just him always getting his hands on the defender no matter what. He is going to get his hands on him. And again, back to the footwork. It's like watching Joel Embiid, to take it to the basketball analogy, where you're like, someone this big probably shouldn't have this graceful footwork, but that's what you see when you watch Sewell. Like, it's like these feet shouldn't be moving like this for a guy who's over 300 pounds.
No. And that just goes to his athleticism. It's just, and those feet also help him get to the second level very fast. So if there's no one there, he's getting on a linebacker, and the linebacker has no chance. And he can also, because of his footwork and his wide stance, Have you seen on his tape how many times he can take on multiple defenders at one time? Like, he can just hold up against two guys.
And he also takes up a lot of space. That was the other thing I had written down. Physically menacing. Like, he's at a physical mismatch on every rep, where it was funny at sometimes where I was like, wait, is that a defensive end or a linebacker? Like, he's so overbearing physically that the guys who are matched up with him, I mean, they look like D3 athletes.
Yes. There was a couple times, my one and only negative was that there was a couple times he doesn't fully always finish his blocks on every play. But again, that's something that's just a mentality at the next level that can be coached. That's nothing that has to do with intangibles or strength or anything.
And the one worry that I had is Pac-12 schemes where it's quick and out of your hands, and like, how much are you really challenged as an offensive lineman there? And one positive, on a positive note, because this is one of the best tackle prospects we've seen, doesn't really commit dumb penalties.
Yes.
There's nothing more annoying than a big guy who is an oaf.
I've seen plenty of them watching the Dallas Cowboys over the years.
He won't be doing the Jason Peters jump back a whole foot and get a false start. That's not really him.
No. All right. You want to move on to our next offensive line prospect?
Yeah, we're staying with the Maulers here. We're going to do Rashawn Slater next, Northwestern tackle. 6'4", 304.
Unbelievable. I have him actually at 315, which is even better. 22 years old, ran a 4.88. Like you said, he's a mauler. This is a guy, if he's sitting there at 10 for the Dallas Cowboys, I want him. And I want him because something I have in my notes right here, he can play tackle, he can play guard. If I'm the Dallas Cowboys, you plug him in at guard right now. He's on the opposite side of Zach Martin at guard. And then when Tyron Smith decides to hang it up, or you decide to walk away from Tyron Smith because the injuries are getting too much, guess what? Rashawn Slater, pencil him in as your starting left tackle for the next 10 years.
Yeah, this is one of the prospects when I was watching, I was like, yeah, I can definitely see this kid going to the Cowboys. I really think that he could benefit that team. Mauler is the word that I had written down. Not just a good offensive tackle in terms of protection, but he looks and hunts for contact.
Yes.
You see that a little bit with both of these guys with all right, who am I going to hit? I'm getting my hand out on somebody. And we're watching the tape here, and this was my favorite tape because I know this is good tape because he's being matched up with Chase Young. We're watching Northwestern versus Ohio State. Chase Young only had one sack this entire game. It was on Northwestern's other tackle. It wasn't on Slater. So this is as clear-cut as you're going to get as an NFL scout. You were watching him play Chase Young, who you know is good at the next level. So that was something that stuck out to me. In an NFL scenario, he performed well.
Mm-hmm. And you can see on that tape, he did it against Chase Young. He did it against everybody. He gets his hands up immediately. As soon as that ball snapped, his hands are up, and he gets them on his defender, and his hand placement on the defender is perfect every time. It helps getting away with some holding penalties because he puts his hands right in the right spot, as well as sometimes he doesn't have to hold because he has the perfect hand placement. So that was definitely something that stuck out to me. He also is another good knee bend guy. And he always plays at very good pad level. So you can even see here, where his pad level is. He's not too high, not too low. It's just, he has such sound technique. He's always square. And you can see right here too, he has great lateral movement. He can move out of that stance, and he's moving to his left beautifully. Give me
mover,
him, please.
Good mover. And I'll tell you what, he gets to the second level too. Like we said, looks and hunts for contact. He's not done. He'll get to the next level. It's good for the screen game. He can move.
I want a guy like this on my team that like you said, goes out and hunts for defenders, wants to protect. He's good in the run game as well as definitely in the pass game. If you're the Dallas Cowboys, you just put a lot of money into your quarterback. You have a somewhat, I guess, aging running back who makes $1 zillion a year. Pave the lane for him. Protect your quarterback. Yeah, this defense stinks. You need cornerbacks, but they're good cornerbacks in the second and third round. There's not offensive linemen like this in the second or third round.
Put the card in, Cowboys.
The only thing, again, he's another he's only 6'3", he's not that tall, and he's got shorter arms, but it's not at all stopping me from taking him at 10.
Imagine having to explain that to a fan base. Well, you took this guy and he didn't pan out. And Slater and Sewell, they're Hall of Fame talents now. Why didn't you go with them? Well, we thought their arms were pretty short. Imagine explaining that one.
Oh, God. No, thank you.
All right. That is good for the maulers, our big guys. Let's go to some of the little guys. And not really that little for the position that they play. Let's do cornerback next. We've got 2 of them here as well.
Yes. So let's start with the Alabama. It's our third Alabama guy. So now we're going from offense to defense. Patrick Surtain II, 21 years old, out of Florida, 6'2", 203, ran a 4.46. I wouldn't say head and shoulders the number one cornerback in this draft, because I think our next guy who we're talking about is pretty close, but I would say is the best cornerback coming out of this draft.
I think best pure cornerback is the best way to describe it. Maybe physical traits. We'll get into Jaycee Horn here in a second. Maybe he's physically, athletically more gifted, but in terms of cornerback technique, Patrick Surtain is definitely the one. And you mentioned, so I'll just go through the points that I had and then relay it to the Eagles really quick. So he's 6'2", and the Eagles always have a bunch of short corners that are 5'9", 5'10". He plays long too. So you see he's got long arms. So he's not just out there just 6'2" and not using that height. You can see he gets his arms on a lot of balls because he can cover a lot of ground with his height and his long arms. And then also he reminded me of Darius Slay a little bit, where I was like, I don't know if this kid is just straight up corner where he can cover well, but he actually comes up and makes tackles around the line of scrimmage. I think there's one coming up, perfect timing. Reads out the screen in the backfield, tackles the Auburn running back all by himself, one-on-one. And it reminded me of how Darius Slay wasn't supposed to be a good tackler, but it was just because he wasn't trying in Detroit. And then he got the Philly and he actually tried. Kind of reminds me of that. I didn't expect him to be that physical, but he does play around the line more than I thought. So he's basically opposite of everything the Eagles have.
I have those in my notes as well. Good tackler and can play the run. Can come up and tackle a running back or tackle a wide receiver after a bubble screen. He uses his size too. He is a physical corner. He's more physical than I thought he was when I watched his film, which I was very happy about. He's good in press coverage at the line. That's what Alabama does. He's been playing that for years in Alabama. He can stand up a wide receiver right at the line, and he's physical all the way through the route. He likes to kind of beat up on the receivers during the routes, and I think that kind of gets to receivers. You can see as the game goes on, some receivers are just done with it because he's beating them up at the line, and then he's physical with them throughout the entire route. He also, this is a huge thing for me for cornerbacks, he has very good hip flip, so he can go from his back pedal right into running seamlessly with his flip or with his hip flip. And he's good in coverage on crossing routes, which is huge in the NFL these days too. They get the crisscrossers. He is phenomenal at staying with his receiver as they're crossing. And the thing that is most important to me if he becomes a Dallas Cowboy, because it's something that the cornerbacks in Dallas have not done in forever. I don't know if they don't teach it or what. He turns his goddamn head and locates the ball and can get a turnover. Please pick the ball off every once in a while, and Surtain will bring that to the Dallas Cowboys or to any team that he's drafted by.
Turning your head? The corners are allowed to do that?
It's unbelievable, right?
Wouldn't have known. Watching my team.
Me either.
Neither of us are too well prone to watching receivers turn their head. But I think why he'll be corner number one off the board, you mentioned it. They play a lot of man at Alabama. He's well schooled. It's this mano-a-mano technique where he can just go up with the receiver, stick with them, and play stride for stride. Doesn't commit penalties because he's 6'2". He can bail himself out. So I think he'll be cornerback one off the board.
I do agree. Only negatives that I saw is, yes, he's very physical and press at the line, but he can be beaten by speed off the line, like a guy like Jamar Chase, who kind of beat him up a little bit in that game against LSU. You want to
Jamar
get into
Chase
that?
beat up everybody. Jamar Chase, he also Trayvon Diggs, who's literally in the NFL, cooked them.
Yes. Yep. And he can be beaten by ball fakes sometimes. Some pump fakes when his head's turned can take him down. But yeah, I mean, he played. Speak of Trevon Diggs, Dallas Cowboys. He was their second round draft pick last year. If the Dallas Cowboys select him this year, Surtain, then they have the Alabama backfield from last year.
There you go.
Put them back
I
together.
wish I could get the Eagles receiving core, or I'm sorry, the LSU receiving core from 2019.
That would
if you guys have the 2019 Alabama corners. But no, I think technically sound, he is the best corner in the draft by far. Helps when your dad was also a cornerback and can
I was
teach
just going to say, his dad was, and he's bigger than his dad. His dad was 5'11". He's 6'2".
He's 6'2", yeah. I wonder if his mom is tall or an athlete.
Let's see. Pamela Surtain, looking her up right here.
You look her up and I'll give my prediction, but I already gave it a few shows ago. I really see him in that Broncos orange with Surtain on the back of the jersey. I really, really see it.
Yeah, I think you're right. I don't. Everybody keeps saying, like, this is the Cowboys pick. Pencil it in. This is who they want. This is who they're keying in on. This is who they need. Just makes sense. Everybody has him as the 10th best player, blah, 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 blah. If there's not a quarterback sitting there for the Broncos at 9, or they don't move up to get a quarterback, it just makes too much sense. Even if Kyle Pitts is sitting there somehow, which he's not going to be, they're a cornerback factory, like you said.
Yeah. And they just took a first-round pick on Noah Fant, so they might be one of the only teams that's not in the Kyle Pitts sweepstakes. I definitely can see Surtain there. Let's do his running mate, if you want to call him, in the race 4. Cornerback 1, we have Jaycee Horn out of South Carolina.
21 years old, 6'1", 205, ran a 4.37. Joe Horn was the man.
That's a great first point.
His dad brought out the cell phone, one of the greatest celebrations of all time. And it's starting to make me feel very old when players that I watched religiously as I was younger and remember their game very much so, now their kids are coming into the league. So that's a negative
Samuel
for
Jr.
me. Yeah.
Asante Samuel Jr. as a cornerback is going to go day 2.
Wild, right?
It's
a lot
insane.
of these guys have kids very young, but still wild.
I know. It's not helping our cause. It's making us feel old.
So my first couple things with him was, again, a very athletic, great size for a corner at 6'1". He also has very good hip flip, just like Surtain does. And we said Surtain's very physical, right? He uses his size, but Horn's more feisty. Like, you could tell he likes to mix it up, right? He wants to tackle these motherfuckers. He wants to hurt people on top of trying to pick the ball off. Now, that I did say in a negative, that can get him in trouble sometimes. He does draw penalties. Don't love that in the NFL, but I love his moxie mentality.
I had very similar points. So I wrote 6'1", 205, another taller, bigger cornerback. So pretty much the opposite of what the Eagles always do. He looks bigger than Surtain and he plays bigger than Surtain, which was what stuck out to me. I was like, are you sure which guy's 6'2", which one's 6'1", and which one has this weight and which guy has this weight? Because it didn't look like it on tape. He looks physically more overbearing than Surtain does, and he plays like it too. Maybe it's a South Carolina thing, but you hope he turns into Stephon Gilmore light, dreadhead guy out of South Carolina. That's the hope. And you can see the physicality. He like enjoys contact and confrontation, plays around the line of scrimmage a lot. As we're doing this, he's sacking Sam Howell out of North Carolina on a blitz. So he kind of roves everywhere. Now, like you said, the negative is when you're that physical, sometimes physicality can be a bad thing.
It can be, but he does still turn his head and locate the ball like Surtain does. So that's not the reason why he gets a lot of penalties. He's good at tracking
hands.
It's his hands. Exactly. But His hands also are very good. That we just saw that there at knocking the ball down. He may not always get the pick, but he always is getting his hand on the ball, which I love. And I don't know if you noticed this in his tape. He sometimes is playing against bigger wide receivers, but he never. Again, it's that fight. I feel like he loves that. Like going against a DK Metcalf in the NFL, I feel like he's going to thrive on that. He never backs down, it seems like. And he does, on top of having just the physical traits and the size, he has an explosive burst that I don't think Surtain has either. He has some speed.
I was about to say, yeah, the thing that stuck out.
Yeah, so Surtain ran a 4.46. He ran a 4.37. But it's different football speed.
I agree. But to me, again, back to your physicality point, I can see him lining up, like going mano a mano with a wide receiver 1 who's 6'3" or 6'4" and not struggling, maybe putting his hands on too much, which again is a worry. And I saw somebody today from PFF say, and I thought this was pretty insane, that they said he might not even be a first round guy because he's too physical. And I just think that's a little bit ridiculous. Stupid. Yeah, I don't see that at all. Like I don't see bust on him.
No. There's no. Because on top of the physicality too, I have this written here too. He stays in the wide receiver's hip pocket the entire route. So he has the intangibles and knows how to play cornerback. He's not just like a Neanderthal out there just trying to hit people every play. Like he knows how to play the cornerback position. He just uses his physicality a little bit more than some other cornerbacks do.
Yeah, so there's a difference. There's 2 types of penalties. It's 1, you're putting your hands on somebody because you panic, and 2, it's because you're overly physical. He's not panicking. No. This guy's physically can match up with anybody and did in the SEC. It's just he physically gets a little bit too excited, a little bit too carried away, and is putting his hands on guys. But it's not because he's out of position.
You can coach that at the next level. A good defensive coordinator, a good position coach can help him get past that.
I agree. And that actually leads into the last point that I had. So I wrote down, Surtain looks like he was built and he plays like he was built in a cornerback factory. Horn is more of a freakish physical athlete. Yes. I think Surtain, he goes anywhere and he'll be fine. Horn needs the right system and he can turn into an absolute monster. So this is the classic risk reward floor versus ceiling situation, or maybe Horn has the higher ceiling, but Surtain has the lower floor.
Now, I think for the Cowboys' perspective, if Surtain and Horn are both sitting there, I don't know why. I just feel like Dan Quinn would want to go with Horn. He likes those physical, in-your-face corners. You think back to the Legion of Boom, the Seattle days when they won the World Series, won the Super Bowl. Even Richard Sherman back then was physical up at the line. Mm-hmm. Surtain's a little bit bigger, but like we just said, Horn plays bigger, if that makes any sense. And I think Dan Quinn, if he has any say within the building, which apparently he has a big say already, because he is a Super Bowl winning defensive coordinator. And apparently they love him. I do like him as a coordinator. Didn't like him as a head coach. And that sometimes is the same thing with Wade Phillips. Wade Phillips came to the Dallas Cowboys as their head coach. Was a terrible head coach. He's a great defensive coordinator. So, I'm hoping he can revive his career. But if both cornerbacks are there, gun to the head, who are you taking? You had to take a corner.
Surtain, less risk.
Yeah.
I think that the Eagles just can't screw up the pick. They're in a position where if the front office wants to keep their jobs, they have to take the less risky option. Does that mean I think Surtain will be better? I don't know. But if you're asking me who the team's taking, it'd be Surtain if both are there at 12.
I'm just trying to see, like you said with Surtain, I could see him like in the Broncos orange, which you're right. I'm just trying to think, where does Horn look? Like New Orleans?
Mm-hmm.
Like with Lattimore?
Yeah, I can see that.
He looks like one of those.
New Orleans, yeah. I can see him on the Cowboys. I can't see him as an Eagle. I can't.
No. I see him with opposite Ramsey.
Yeah, just like those get up in your face guys.
Buffalo,
but they'll pick too
they
late
don't need.
though.
Yeah, he won't be there.
Don't let the Steelers.
Oh God, yeah,
Do
no.
not let this kid fall at 20.
If he falls there, and I mean, we're not talking about Caleb Farley, but obviously Horn jumped up to CB2 on most people's draft boards because Caleb Farley from Virginia Tech, who was on some people's draft boards as CB1, even over Surtain, came out with the back injury. He did not play this past year. He had a back injury that ended, I believe, his 2019 season, missed the last 2 games of the season, and just came out that he had another back procedure to relieve, pressure in his back, but he didn't play this entire year and he needed a back procedure. Red flags are everywhere. And, I was listening to our guy, Jeff Kavanaugh, on the draft show. You probably heard this too. He dropped him all the way down to cornerback 8 for him on his.
I saw that in his power rankings, which is pretty wild. I don't think I have him down to 8, but that's a long way to go. 8's a long way to drop. But listen, as someone who's been burned by the injury route before, I'm not going to knock anybody for not taking him.
No, but I'm not upset with Horn now being CB2 after watching his tape. He deserves it.
Yeah, I agree. I love the physicality.
All right. We got one more player on the board. We saved the best for last. Hashtag Aiden's favorite. Hashtag
Team Micah, baby.
So Micah Parsons out of Penn State, linebacker, 21 years old, 6'3", 245, ran a 4.39. It's just not fair. Completely insane athletic ability is my first note.
Listen, I didn't even watch the tape. I have it memorized in my head. I've seen every rep since this kid was in high school. He is a physical specimen who, if Kyle Pitts weren't in this draft, we'd be saying Micah is the best athlete in the draft. And every step along the way, as soon as you give him more responsibility, he delivers. So he in high school, he played defensive end and running back. And then they were like, okay, well, at college, you have to adjust and play linebacker. So he did, and he was freshman all Big Ten. And then they were like, okay, you're not splitting reps anymore as a sophomore. You have to play full-time linebacker, and you have to call the plays. And he was all Big Ten, and he led the team in tackles. So if you're curious if he'll adjust to the next level, he will. Because some people are just naturally talented like that, and this is him.
And all those things kind of go with my notes on top of, like I said, completely insane athletic ability, which it's just unbelievable. He's pure explosiveness. He's fast in every direction, like side to side, backwards, forwards. He's just fast. It's stupid.
I think the burst really screws people up too, because they don't expect it. Like it's like you're coming at him and you're like, oh wait, what do I do? I think he almost freaks people out by how fast he is.
And he can move on a dime, so he can be going laterally and bang, he's coming at you with that burst straight ahead if he needs to be, and he causes turnovers, which I feel like as a linebacker is so important. Sack, fumble, stripping a running back coming up the middle, like he does it all, and he does it with just violence. He's just violent.
So, Vince, before you take the tape away, here's what I'm noticing on the tape. And like I've said, I've watched every game. I know there's a lot of these plays where no blocker is touching him. And you know what that says? It means, one, he's reading and reacting and knowing where the ball is going. And two, he has such a ferocious burst that he's getting to the ball in a hurry before people can react at the same time and block him. There's so many plays in here where there's just no one even touching. Like that on this 4th and 1, where you're running it, you still couldn't get a hand on him.
It's just
again another play on it. There's just like a missed block. He knew where the play was going. He knew which side it was going to. They missed the block. He's untouched tackling the running back,
and he never loses momentum. Like even if someone does get one hand on him, that burst just goes through it. Or if he has to change that direction, his momentum just carries him perfectly forward. I think right here is going to be, his ability to play up the field is unbelievable, whether it's going after the quarterback, making a tackle behind the line, or at a, on a goal line situation. It's just, makes me want to stay at a VRBO.
Great effort. No free advertisements. All right,
something I
back.
saw too that I love is he's competitive on every single snap. I don't ever see him just like take a snap off ever.
No. And you see, like you mentioned, it's all over the field. So 1, he can blitz from the linebacker position and put pressure on the quarterback. 2, he can read and react to the running plays. And 3, he's fast enough that he can cover tight ends. So I know that the tight end position isn't in running backs. He literally was a running back and kick returner. So I know people devalue the linebacker position these days, the Eagles. But this kid's like more than just like a linebacker. And if you're one of these teams who are just bad and you have a lot of holes to fill, why not just, even if it's a position that you don't care about in linebacker, if you have a lot of holes, why not just go get the most athletic and most naturally gifted player on the board?
Like if I'm I am a Cowboys fan. If they took him at 10, I would not be mad. If that gets Jaylen Smith off the field, thank you.
Yeah, I agree. I think I can see Micah playing in the Cowboys blue and I almost said blue and green, blue and white. I can't see him on the Eagles, unfortunately. It hurts my heart, breaks it into a million pieces. I feel like Adam Sandler in 50 First Dates when he realizes that she can't remember him. My heart is broken, but they don't care about linebackers. And I think that's a mistake because this isn't just a linebacker. He's the key to guarding tight ends, blitzing, getting pressure on the quarterback, which they care about so much, and being able to stop the run. One last point on him I forgot to mention. Something I've looked into a lot is miss rate on tackles, which seems like a stat that matters. So I was like researching it, and I guess people who are smarter than us pay a lot of attention to it. So it's like miss rate on tackles. He was under 10%, which for a linebacker is really, really good. So he's not only just bursting to the ball, but then he makes the play when he gets there.
He's not, I don't think he's going to go top 10, but he deserves to go top 10. I feel like if in any other draft where there wasn't 4 quarterbacks going in the top 4, he would have a shot.
I was about to say the quarterback thing kind of skews the talent, which helps the team at 10 to 12 when you don't need a quarterback. But yeah, I think you are correct. This is a top 10 talent. Mel Kiper had him 5th on his board before the season started, but it's really just the fact that it's going to be 4 straight quarterbacks and possibly 5 in the top 10 that really skew this thing.
He's going to be a Raider.
I can see that. I can really see it. Oh yeah.
Just in that silver and black. Just hunting people.
If the Patriots do not make a move for Justin Fields, please do not let this kid fall to 15th. Please do not give him the Bill Belichick. I am begging. God. I am begging. If you're from Buffalo, you should be begging. If you're from Miami, you should be begging. Please do not let this kid get there.
If you're Zach Wilson, you're begging.
If you're Zach Wilson, you are begging. Please, New York.
Can you imagine you're Zach Wilson, you go number 2, you're going to the Jets, you're all happy, and then 15. Ding, ding, ding. The first pick, New England Patriots select Micah Parsons. Mother.
Keeping up with the tradition of the New York Jets seeing ghosts when they play the New England Patriots.
Gosh. He would just be like, you want to trade me for Sam Darnold? I'll go down to Carolina.
Right? Yeah. Make it a little easier. Throw to Kyle Pitts, who's going there at 8 because of Matt Rule.
There you go.
All right. So anything else on Parsons?
No, I mean, he's just
the best.
He's a stud. He's a freak. I would take him every day and twice on Sunday on the Cowboys.
Me too.
The only thing that people are knocking him on, we sat out the year. I don't know if he can be trusted as a teammate. Are they saying that about? Well, Trey Lance didn't sit out because they didn't really have a season, but there's other guys. Yeah,
Jamar Chase sat out.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. I haven't heard that
Penei
once
Sewell.
about Jamar Chase. Penei
Sewell sat out. No one says a thing.
Nope. But for some reason, it's that Micah character.
I know a good amount, and it's like I'm not worried.
And you're not
overcomable stuff. This
And
is not an Aaron Hernandez situation.
You're not someone also that, if you knew he beat up like 7 guys, you'd be like, nah, it's fine. You'd be like, I don't know.
I'd cut it with you straight. I'd be like, I don't know if you want to touch this guy.
Yeah, exactly. That was fun.
It was a lot of fun. I love doing the draft prospect talk. It's great. Draft coming up. We're so close. I'm sure we'll talk about it a little bit more, but for now, that was a lot of fun to break these prospects down.
It was. And they're, like we said, they were fun prospects to watch too.
Absolutely. Yeah, they've got a lot of great tape. I know I just stick to strictly YouTube watching the games, but I don't do the all 22. But even then, it's a lot of fun. It gets your juices flowing. Makes you miss college, makes you miss the pros at the same time.
Now, do we have a Vince's nugget on one player that Vince could break down?
He does. So we'll bring Vince in, and then we'll do that and do our TikTok and get out of here.
Perfect.
So, Vince, come on back in. I know you have your nugget. You want to break down a prospect for us as well on the draft preview show.
I do. I couldn't be the only one that I'm breaking down prospects today. So I'm bringing you Presley Harvin III, senior from Georgia Tech. So he's a punter, not a kicker. I wanted to switch it up this week. 48 yards per punt, 18 inside the 20, 3 touchbacks, 46.7% fair catch forced. So that is Presley Harvin III.
18 inside the 20 seems like a lot. Like that actually seems pretty good.
Yeah. Also, really cool name.
Very, very close to Percy Harvin, but also just like the complete opposite person, I'm sure.
Because he punts.
And Harvin was one of the best punt returners of all time.
Ever.
Maybe we'll do a TikTok that is best college players of all time.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I like that.
Most exciting
right now,
prospect.
I'm prepared for that.
No, not right now. Right now, we're doing top 5 tight ends in the NFL. So we're going back to the NFL. We did kickers last week. Thank you to everybody who chimed in on Twitter or on TikTok. We loved your comments on kickers in the NFL. Love the spirited debate about kickers. So we'll do tight ends tonight. We'll do our normal triangle, 5 to 1, 5 being the least, 1 being the most. So 5 best tight ends in the NFL. You guys ready?
Yeah, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of arguing about this too.
Again, if you hear from TikTok, these lists are official. This is the final say. These are official.
Don't say, well, what about so-and-so? Well, What about him? He wasn't in the top 5.
He's not here.
Yeah, we'll do 6 through 10 next time. They'll make it on that list. Yeah.
What about Hayden Hurst?
I don't have him on my list. He's out. He's
Sorry.
6th. All right.
Anybody that they say, be like, oh, 6.
6. That's what I do. I go, maybe 6th.
All right, let's do this.
I'll start it off at 5. I have Noah Fant. I think with better quarterback play, he'd be fantastic. He still is, as it is. He was injured, but he was already producing as rookie at 5. I have Fant.
We have the same brain. At number 5, I have Noah Fant.
At number 5, I have Taysom Hill. I think a tight end that's a dual threat is, because like you said, Kyle Pitts, versatile tight end that can do 2 different things. It's important.
There you go.
Very true.
One of the best fantasy weeks ever was playing him at quarterback while he was listed as a tight end. All right. At 4, I have Kyle Pitts. We mentioned him in the show. Fantastic. Kid is an absolute physical mismatch. Made kids in the SEC look like JV scrubs in high school. Perfect combination of size and speed. He doesn't have a team yet, but when he does, he'll be one of the best tight ends in the league right off the bat.
I don't know if you saw the ticker. I already put him in the Hall of Fame.
Thank you. Get his gold jacket now.
At number 4, I have from the Baltimore Ravens, Mark Andrews, but do a little cross out here, Vince, because after next year, he will be taken off this list and replaced by Kyle Pitts.
Do a little cross.
So for now, it's Mark Andrews, but later it's going to be Kyle Pitts.
I don't. That's a lot to type, and got a little bit of space.
Figure it out. Figure it out.
I'll try. So at number 4, again, dual threat. I have J.J. Watt.
Did catch a touchdown.
That's what I'm saying. Great tight end.
He would be
Any explanation?
No, I think the dual threat thing is really important.
Okay, fair enough.
Versatile player.
All right, at 3, I have Travis Kelce. The numbers speak for himself. He'll go down as one of the best tight ends of all time. The Kansas City offense will go down as one of the greatest offenses of all time. At 3, I have Travis Kelce.
At 3, I have Darren Waller. Like we said before, dude is a complete freak. You can play him on the outside. He's basically a wide receiver in a tight end's body, just like Kyle Pitts is. 3 for me, Darren Waller.
3 for me, I have Carson Wentz because the Eagles wouldn't have kept lining him up out there if he wasn't one of the greatest tight ends of all time. They wouldn't have kept doing that for absolutely no reason if he wasn't a great tight end.
Yeah, why would they do that 10 on 11 play for no reason? All right, at 2, I have Darren Waller. Now, you're probably saying, why is he ahead of Travis Kelce? Where I think if he was put in a better environment, you would see similar stats to Kelce. I just think that the Chiefs' offense is so good. We comped Pitts to Darren Waller because he can split out wide. He kind of beats people with his physicality and his speed, beats corners, safeties, linebackers, whoever is pitted against him. He's basically a hybrid receiver tight end.
2 for me is George Kittle. Dude is a complete freak. The only reason I don't have him at 1 is because he had a awful April Fool's joke where he tweeted out that he was now part of the Jacksonville Jaguars in a jersey. It just made no sense. So very good player, very bad sense of humor.
I think a lot of players are like that. Riley Cooper, I can name a few more. Number 2, I have Kyle Juszczyk. I know he's not officially a tight end, but he is, just brick wall guy.
Versatile player.
Yeah, versatile player.
Catches a few passes.
Mm-hmm. Brick wall that can catch balls. It's a tight end to me.
That's a saying for you. Brick wall that can catch balls. All right, at 1, I have George Kittle. I think we forgot about him a little bit because he had an injury-riddled season, but I think he's the toughest tackle in National Football League. He is a physical mismatch on every single play, and we're talking reception volume out the wazoo. He is fantastic. I think he's the best tight end in the league and will be this year with Mac Jones.
So number 1 for me is Dallas Goedert. No, I'm just kidding. It's Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce has to be 1 for me. The numbers speak for themselves. I could have him at 2 or even 3, just like you did with Waller and Kittle. I think they're all so close, but I just feel like what he's done recently, he deserves the top spot.
All right, at number 1, versatile player, I have tight end for the Dallas Cowboys, LeBron James. I've been hearing for years about how this dude would be an amazing tight end for the Cowboys, so he must be the greatest tight end in the league.
Would be.
He probably would be.
He might flop a little too much, though.
Mm-hmm. Oh, he'd ask for pass interference on every single play.
This is American football, not European football there, LeBron. Vince, thank you for...
Can you imagine LeBron getting chipped and just like him completely taking himself out of the play, being like, oh, where's the call?
Do you think NFL fans would be like, oh, LeBron couldn't have played in the 80s and 90s like they do with basketball?
Absolutely.
He couldn't have played the National Football League in the 1980s.
He would have got his head taken off going across the middle.
Yeah, exactly. He would have never hung on to this ball.
All right, Vince, thank you very much.
Nope.
All right. That was fun.
That was great. That puts a wrap on the draft preview show presented by Stateside Vodka. Like we said, we'll be back next week and weeks to come with guests. But for now, we wanted to break down these prospects ahead of the draft itself. Speaking of the draft itself, as you know, we have the draft show. We'll be live streaming. So all these guys' names, as they are called, we will be reacting live. YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, anywhere you can find us, we'll be there. So thank you for listening. Thank you to Stateside Vodka. Thank you to Kyle Pitts for producing the greatest film of all time. And thank you to Micah Parsons for putting Harrisburg on your back.
Drink Stateside Vodka. Draft good players. We'll be back next week.
Chris Hansen here, and I'm going to need you all to take a seat right over there and check out Birds versus Boys.
I think you're completely right here. And I hate it.
Yep. Hey, idiots. Stop doing dumb things.
I got 2 phones.
Upset alert. I might go insane.
I think you're already there.
There's no hope.
Hope is
Dude,
gone.
If this was an AFC North podcast, we'd be done in 15 minutes.
Bob Hope.
I'm going to drink bleach.
That
Be
is.
the team you promised me you were going to be this year.
This is the Consciously Hopeful podcast.
I'll be watching.